Everyone. Morning. So this is our last update until we take a break over the summer, and we'll be back in August as things slow down a little bit. So I just wanted to go over some of the happenings at the university over this last month, things that are coming along in the future, celebrate some of the great accomplishments of members of the NEOMED team. And then we'll, as always, open it up for questions. So why are we here? We're here as a university, as the state will tell you, to train a healthcare workforce for the state of Ohio. That's the number one reason, in the opinion of the legislature, that we exist. We also know that our role is to improve healthcare outcomes, and we do that not just through training great professionals for the future, but we also do this through research and, of course, service to our communities. So it was amazing, and it was a thrill and so much fun for us to be able to participate in commencement this year. And I'm going to see if this doesn't seem to be working. There we go. Now it is. So we had a commencement this year on May 6th. We had a great speaker. For those of you who weren't able to attend, Don Malone, who's from the class of 1984, who's currently second in charge at the Cleveland Clinic. He's in charge of all of Ohio for the Cleveland Clinic, gave an amazing presentation to the students, talking about the changes in medicine, talking about the past at NEOMED and their future. We also had the opportunity to award 2 honorary degrees, but we graduated 245 new graduates, and the highest number in our history from the College of Graduate Studies, spanning multiple degrees and multiple certificates. So this was incredible. This is why we're here. We get to ramp up and do it all over again. And it doesn't matter what your position is here. We all have a major role in doing this. I am not sitting in the classroom teaching students, but I do like to hope that I've contributed somehow into the graduates who are coming out of this university, because this is really why we exist. And we do it really well. I've been here 3.5 years now. And what I heard a lot in the past was, well, we're in Rootstown, and a lot of people don't know who we are. And people seem to have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder in some ways, not everybody. But you got to take that chip off. This is a great university, and we're doing great things, and we're being recognized. And they say you always remember your first love, your first time driving a car. Maybe it's the first time you fell off a horse. But what we can't forget is our first. And I'm really thrilled to be able to tell you that we have been recognized by U.S. News and World Report as one of the best graduate schools in the country for 2023. This is the first time that we've been recognized to this level. Yeah. And this is graduate. That doesn't mean the graduate school. It means graduate level education, anything above a bachelor's degree, essentially. So this is a big deal. We're really looking to celebrate this. I know that this is a time when many people are looking at U.S. News World Report and saying, well, do we really think that their system is a good system? We think it's biased in many ways. And so some medical schools, in fact, and some law schools have decided not to participate. That would be the ones that don't really need it and don't really get a benefit out of it. It's Harvard, Stanford, University of Pennsylvania, Duke. They cannot be in this mix because their name recognition is so big, people know that this is where I'm going to apply anyway. Ultimately, what's happened is U.S. News and World Report is changing their algorithms a bit, and they made a pretty substantial change to it this year. Some other accolades that came out of that for us, in fact, include the fact that we went from being probably near dead last several years ago when we weren't ranked to about 83 last year, and now number 41 for diversity in a College of Medicine in the country. And we did that by simply doing the right thing, which is creating a student population that's reflective of Ohio's population. We have taxpayer base we are here to support. And that taxpayer base is about 17 to 18% underrepresented minorities. And we've hit that now. Now, we are not the most diverse in the state of Ohio. That goes to Ohio State. They're just a few percentage points above us, though. And that took them from where we are, 42, to about number 13th in the country. And that's only a few percentage points. So I think that by next year, we're probably going to be down into the top 20. And then we figure out where our steady state should be based on not just Ohio, but the region in Ohio that we live in. We've also been recognized, and it takes a long time to get there, for our research capabilities. There are 193 medical schools in the United States. That includes MD and DO schools. If you looked at our ranking last year, we were ranked equally with Wright State University and with Ohio University. And so we were the three who fell as a group near the end of the spectrum on the less impactful side for research. But you also have to look at our sizes. OU has about 30,000 students. Wright State has somewhere in the neighborhood of 12,000 students. We have about 1,000 students, but they don't take that into account when they do these rankings. It's about the impact that you're having as an institution, heavily based on federal funding dollars that you receive for research. So we ended up ranking at number 106 out of 193 total ranked and unranked schools. But because they changed the way they did the rankings now, they actually delineated that last group. And so we are we're really number 5 of 7 now. Ohio University is ranked at, I believe, 110, and Wright State University is ranked at 116 and NEOMED at 106. So we're in a pretty good position relative to our small size. And in fact, if we were the size of these other institutions, it would show our research impact to be pretty substantial. So thank you to our researchers, for all of you who are working hard to make a difference, publishing papers. Thank you very much. Now I challenge you next year to get down to 104 or 103, but let's keep going. We're doing really, really great things as a university. I want to make sure we recognize those. Graduate school has really done some amazing things over the last few years. We've grown the graduate school programming now to, we had 10. We decided to eliminate one. We have 9 degree programs. You could say 10 if you counted one's a PhD and a master's program. We've got several certificate programs, but what is our popularity, and are we doing a good job recruiting into these programs because of the value? This is the last 3-year average of the number of applicants we had received at this time, meaning last week, compared to the other previous years. 2 years ago, we had 119 students apply to get into our graduate school. Last year, we had 452, and this year, we already have 1,045 applicants that were started in the system. So we've got a 778% increase in just over a couple of year period of time. And some of those are becoming incredibly competitive. We know how hard it is to get into medical school. But our most competitive program right now, based on number of applications started and the number of people accepted, is the Certified Anesthesia Assistant program. We have over 800 applications for what currently about 16 student positions, though we're looking to grow that as we continue to get more clinical opportunities available to us. So Julie Altman and her team are doing an amazing job with the College of Graduate Studies. She's just presented to us today with their plans on more expansion, more support in attracting more students. They're partnering with the other colleges to create pathways that leverage the capabilities of both. So I'm really pleased at where we're going. And Dr. Faison is now starting to lead the charge and bringing all the colleges together for shared resourcing so that we can all do even better. I do want to recognize that Dr. Basson will be starting with us in about 6 weeks or less. I understand he's going to move parts of his laboratory out in the second week of June. So please go out of your way to welcome him. Go out and visit the dean's office. I do want to thank again Dr. Mawad. He's carried the torch for us now for well over a year, heading towards 1.5 years, and has done an outstanding job. And he'll continue to do an outstanding job for us as he works for us as vice dean, and will be able to help Dr. Basson with his transition and then assist him with leading the College of Medicine. But we don't just gain people, we lose people, and we lose very, very good people for reasons that we're all going to face someday, which include the prospect of retirement. And so I do want to take the time to recognize Dr. Bill Chillian. Dr. Chillian has been at the university for decades. Dr. Chillian has the highest H index of any faculty member at the university. And H index is a reflection of your academic impact over time. It's one of many metrics that scientists use to measure how impactful they've been over their careers. He's been chairman of our department, IMS, and he's been a really outstanding faculty member and an incredible mentor and a real driver for IMS's federal funding dollars that they've been able to bring in. Now, while Dr. Chillian is retiring at the end of June, he wanted to make sure you know that he is going to come back in September as a part-time faculty member to continue doing research and to continue mentoring faculty members. So a big thank you to Dr. Chillian for everything he's done. And another lifelong, or nearly lifelong member in his career at NEOMED has been Dr. Bill Lynch. And Dr. Lynch, too, is retiring. Although, as I understand it, he won't be coming back to do some part-time research efforts or even part-time teaching. I believe he and his family are going to be moving out of state. He's been at NEOMED a long time, really helped to build this university, and he, too, will be greatly missed. So if you see these two in the hallways, or if you want to shoot them an email, please congratulate them on their incredible careers and all that they've done for the university. I want to recognize a couple of our faculty members. Dr. Winters just received this month, we've got recognition of a large NIH grant to fund his work. Dr. Patrick Kang has been renewed with Akron Children's Hospital for substantial funding for his generalized research he's doing in partnership with them. And then Dr. Kazimov and Dr. Dangler-Krish together received an award from Kent State University's Brain Health Research Institute. So just more of our faculty doing great things, their work being recognized, and this was just over the month of May. It's great that we have these continue to roll in, and these are really heavily the reason why we're doing well in the U.S. News and World Report research rankings. I also want to recognize Dr. Adam Goodwill and Dr. Ohanian. Dr. Ohanian, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. If you could let me know afterwards, I can try and change the pronunciation on that. But both of them were inducted into very prestigious fellowships through the American Physiology Society in the cardiovascular section. And then, not to be outdone, the College of Pharmacy had 2 inductees into prestigious fellowships also, Dr. Jackie Boyle and Dr. Mate Sorek, who are both inducted into the American Society of Health Systems Pharmacists. These were both in the last 4 to 6 weeks. Congratulations to them and to all of our other faculty members who are getting these great achievements. Now, changes in response to you and our students filling out a survey. What we heard was food availability is limited. The quality is okay, but could be improved. The quantity as far as times and the variety were not sufficient. And you also indicated that you really liked the Nook bookstore. It received about an 8.5 out of 10 rating scale for being a high quality store. The challenges weren't because of the people running it. They're doing a great job, as all of you said. It's about the space. So some initial changes that are coming in the horizon are going to help address that, but it's only the first step. We've got many other things that we're planning. But in step 1, The Nook bookstore will be closing near the end of this month and will not open up again until July 5th. And at that time, it's going to be in the expanded space of the old pharmacy, where they are going to run more like a student commons or a student union. There will be off-the-shelf food and drink opportunities. There will be an expansion of offerings within the store, more of a grab and go and sundries opportunity for everybody to participate in. We'll have longer hours than we've had for the Nook. And right next door at Starbucks, we're asking our partners at Signet to expand their hours beginning in the mid-July standpoint timeframe, to expand their hours from 7:30 to somewhere between 5 and 6 at night, with also more food opportunities that'll be available to you there too. Now, this is just our initial fix. We have a lot of other things that we're planning. Mary Taylor's team is working on this, and many of the bigger changes will take a year or so to be able to implement. But we're going to look at this, we're going to track it, we're going to make sure it's meeting your needs. And at the same time, we'll continue to modify and change as we need to for you, because you're the ones who will be using this. I do know that there's going to be some type of marketing campaign for your input and for students' input about what to call it. The Nook was because this small little cutout, this little Nook, this is changing, and there's already been a number of people proposing new names for it. Naming things just makes it a little bit more fun, brings tension to it, and makes people feel more part of the process. Budget season. Many of you may have wondered why it's been a little bit quiet lately. Well, it's quiet because most of the big load was done. Mary's team has done an amazing job. She's got a great team of people who work for her, who do the work on this, like Marilyn and Jackie. They spend hours every week. And we think we've come to a reasonable budget that's going to benefit our faculty and our staff and our students, which will include compensation adjustments, as we promised to try and do year over year. For the last 3 years, we've been able to achieve that, and we'll continue to work on that. That is built into the budget. The reason it's been quiet for right now is we don't know what's happening at the state. The state budget has a big impact on us. There's something called SSI, or State Share of Instruction. There's also something referred to as clinical teaching subsidy that goes to medical schools. And those dollars greatly impact our total budget. It accounts for about 20%. And the governor came out with one of the most beneficial budgets that we've ever seen for higher education. That got toned down a little bit with the House, and now the Senate has it. And the initial Senate bill should come out the end of this week. And then they have about 2 weeks to modify it, and they come up with something called the omnibus bill. We don't know what's going to be in it. We know the Senate has mixed feelings on different institutions of higher education within the state, but we are working hard. John Stiliana and his team have been huge proponents for going in and trying to keep our budget whole. So when we know what the state's going to be able to give us, then we'll be able to release the budget to everybody, because until that happens, we don't know what the dollars in are, so we can determine what the dollars out will be. Legislative update on other key topics. We get a lot of questions about Senate Bill 83. Many of you know what that is. It's the Ohio Higher Education Enhancement Act. It just passed the Senate, and that passed as a sub-bill with great modifications to its original bill. The sponsor of that bill is Senator Jerry Serino. He's been working closely with the IUC to make sure that the bill meets the needs of the university, but also meets the needs of the state legislature. So I think the bill that eventually went through and passed in the Senate was toned down greatly. I have read it probably 5 times so that I truly understand it. Most of what is in there now is greatly toned down. The edges have been smooth. And honestly, it gives us a way to continue to do the things we want to do. The things that are most contentious right now for most universities are things that don't impact us. We don't have a union. Well, there's union language in there that essentially disempowers unions. But so that doesn't really impact us. There's a lot of extra work for undergraduate degree programs. We don't have undergraduate degree programs. So the work essential to implement that is not going to be something we have to deal with. And the most recent thing that caught everybody's attention was dramatic changes to philanthropy language for endowments to universities. And essentially, none of that impacts us. So most of the bill is not going to have a dramatic change at the university here. There was an element in there regarding faculty workload that was originally picking a particular number, saying you have to hit this and you have to hit this minimum. We worked with Senator Serino, and now the language that just passed in the Senate actually says it's up to the Board of Trustees to establish what the faculty workload objective numerical values will be, and that they have to be based on federal code of regulations, and essentially that we should be reflecting that of our peer institutions. So once again, they worked with us. We were able to implement changes to it. A letter went out to Senator Serino from the IUC. If any of you read it, it's public. It's on the internet, stating that we thank him for working with us. We thank him and applaud him for some of the changes that he intended to enact, such as ensuring that everybody has a voice at a university. But that the areas that we still had some concern were delineated, and he has worked to address some of them, but some of those are still in there. And then finally, this is our last update before August. I want you to know that the human resources team advocates really hard for all of our employees. Andre Burton reached out to me, as he does every year, and says, will you please support the Summer of Wellness again and allow us to do this? And I said, of course we will. So we do have Summer of Wellness again implemented. This gives everybody on Fridays over the period of the Summer of Wellness to come off your work responsibilities 2 hours early. Ideally, we'd love to see you at the pool, out running, or doing something for your wellness, even if it's your mental health wellness. We all need that too. But do something. You should try and go out and do something different to keep yourself healthy, instead of just saying, okay, I'm off a little bit early, I'm going to go home and do more housework, or whatever it is that you do when you go home. Do something for yourself. Do something to better yourself, your physical health, your mental health, or a combination of both. I think it's really important for all of us to be able to do that. And I do know that there's separate language in that all of you probably know better than I do, regarding getting off a little bit earlier when it's a Friday before a Monday holiday, which we'll be implementing for this coming Memorial Day. That's all I wanted to share with you today. There are a lot of great things going on, great news to be able to share. I hope all of you really recognize the tremendous impact our faculty and staff and students have. And that recognition from U.S. News and World Report for the first time in our history was really quite great to see. I'd be happy to take any questions. Anything online? Yeah, it looks like we do have one. About Senate Bill 83's diversity reductions, were those eliminated? So it doesn't have diversity reductions in it. What it says is, it initially said you are not allowed to have mandatory diversity, equity, and inclusion training, meaning when you come in, we can't tell every single person in the university, campus operations, to the police department, to curriculum coordinators, you have to do this every year. What they said is you're not allowed to do that. Instead, it says you may make it optional. Now, the sub-bill came in and said, actually, we'll let you have mandatory if your accreditation body requires it, or if your grants require it, or if you have a partnership with some institution that requires it. So they softened that language down to the point that you pretty much can do it. Right? Well, they did say that if your accreditation body requires you to do it, then you can ask for a waiver and you can make it mandatory. But first you have to prove you look for an alternate accreditation body that doesn't require it. Well, LCME doesn't have an alternate, ACPE doesn't have an alternate, KHEP doesn't have an alternate. So we don't really have to worry about that. So it doesn't really impact us. It does say that the language is written says that you can't put excess resources into favoring any one group over another group based on, there's a lot of things, but it was based on race, gender identity, a number of different statuses. And what that really means is we empower everybody. Doesn't mean we take anything away from anyone. We just have to make sure that we're doing more for everybody. The perceptions of the legislature might have been that if we had zebras and we had horses, that we were doing more for the zebras because we didn't have very many zebras here, and therefore we had to take some things away from the horses. They say, you can't do that. You've got to benefit everybody. So put more resources in to helping everybody because we're all different. So part of it could be, instead of a DEI organization within the institution saying we're only here to help women, or we're only here to help Asian men, that essentially their language, as they shared with us, was intended to say, we all have differences, and those differences aren't based on race and gender identity, or where you grew up, rural versus urban, that they're different for every single person. That an Asian female who grew up in Japan, came over to the US as a brand new citizen, and happens to identify as a lesbian, she's going to have total different needs than the Caucasian male who grew up on a farm in rural Idaho and then came into the state of Ohio, and that all of us have tremendously different needs. So they're telling us, support everybody, do more to support everybody. And I feel like as the language is written, it's been really softened to the point that we can continue to do the good work that we're doing at the university. That was the only one I saw online. Are there any other questions in the audience? Nope. Yes. Oh, is there one more just pop up? Thank you. About the diversity in hiring practices, and what message is all of this sending to students, especially students of color? Well, the diversity language regarding hiring just says that you can't show favoritism. Now, that's been a controversy that's been outlined by the federal government, state government, in many, many different areas. And most legal experts, including our own, Maria, are you in the room? Maria, I don't see Maria. She's probably online. But what they've informed us is they believe that this piece in the Senate, in the state, is probably not as impactful as what we're going to see come out of SCOTUS, right? Probably in July. And in July, we're expecting that there's going to be some restraints put us on our practices and how we decide who can get hired and come into the university, or who can come in as a student of the university. I think from what Maria is telling us, we're pretty safe with this process that we use, where we take numerous variables into play and we're able to shape our class doing that. Same thing with hiring individuals. We can still go out and make sure that everybody has an opportunity. We've just got to make sure that everybody is highly qualified to do the job, and that we're pushing to have a diversity that's reflective of the state Ohio taxpayers. And I think there will be fine ways for us to be able to do that. I just have to work closely with our legal team to ensure that we're doing things by the book, that we're not going to get in trouble. Although if you read that Senate bill, there are no teeth in there. It doesn't say, if you don't do this, then you lose your funding. If you don't do this, then we're going to come fire your president. It doesn't say anything like that. There actually are no listed ramifications in the bill. They're just trying to get us all to do the right thing, to give everybody a fair and equitable opportunity. That's it there. And the rest of you look like you want to start your summer of wellness. So thank you very much for your time. I look back forward to seeing you with our new students in August.